Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, we spend a massive amount of our mental energy obsessing over all the shiny new tools, the AIs, the new headsets, all the stuff that makes headlines. But if you actually, strip away the hype and look at the load-bearing walls of how we work today, it really just comes down to two things.
Let me guess. The ability to see each other
Yeah.
and the ability to build things together.
Exactly. It's the video box we all live in for 8 hours a day, and it's the code repository where we store the blueprints for everything. It's the digital nervous system.
Right. And we just take it for granted. It's like electricity.
Totally. You flip a switch, the light comes on, you push code, it just goes.
Until the pipes burst.
Until the pipes burst. And right around January 21st, 2026, the utility lines didn't just leak, they started sparking.
Yeah.
We saw this cluster of critical security updates hit from the absolute giants here, Zoom and GitLab. And looking at the reports, specifically this great breakdown from the Hacker News, we are not talking about minor patch notes.
No, definitely not. This isn't a dark mode update. I mean, usually we're looking at optimizations, maybe a few new features this time. We are looking at, real business continuity risks.
Right.
We have vulnerabilities on the table that range from, let's say, annoying service interruptions all the way up to complete unmitigated infrastructure takeovers.
And I want to get straight to the number that made me, spill my coffee this morning. There is a vulnerability in this stack with a severity score of 9.9 out of 10.
Which, in the CVSS world, that's the common vulnerability scoring system, is basically as bad as it gets. It's the ceiling.
I always wondered about that scale. What does it take to get that last 0.1? Does the server have to physically catch fire?
It's pretty close to that. A 9.9 is effectively a DEFCON 1 siren for any IT team. When you see a score that high, it generally means 3 specific nightmares have all come together.
Okay.
First, the flaw is easy to exploit. Second, it requires no special privileges to start. You don't have to be an admin. And third, the result is total compromise. Confidentiality, integrity, availability, all gone. And that is exactly what we are seeing with this Zoom alert.
Okay, so let's unpack this 9.9 monster before we even get to the GitLab stuff. This is the headliner. It's CVE-2026-22844. Break this down for us. What's the actual mechanism? It says command injection, which sounds so old school.
It's an oldie but a baddie. Command injection is essentially a failure of input sanitization. So, to put it simply, a program expects you to give it a specific piece of data, like a username or a meeting ID.
Right.
But instead of just giving it the data, you give it the data plus a system command.
So it's like if I went to a restaurant and the waiter asks for my order and I say, I'll have the burger and also give me the keys to the restaurant and empty the cash register.
That's the perfect analogy. In a secure system, the software would just say, okay, I'm writing down the rest of that is nonsense.
Oh.
But in a command injection scenario, the system is too trusting. It doesn't realize the second part of your sentence isn't a food order. It just executes it as an instruction. Order, burger, action, hand over keys.
And in the Zoom case, the vulnerability allows a meeting participant, so someone already in the call, to execute malicious code on the server.
Correct. And this leads to RCE, remote code execution.
RCE, that's the acronym that makes security engineers wake up in a cold sweat.
It's the gold standard for attackers. RVE means I'm not just using your software anymore. I'm running my software on your hardware.
Oh, man.
I can browse your file system. I can install backdoors. I can pivot to other parts of your network. It's handing over the keys to the kingdom.
Now, before everyone listening panics and, throws their laptop out the window, we need to clarify the target here. This 9.9 isn't impacting the standard Zoom app on my phone or my desktop, is it?
That is the crucial distinction. Thank you for bringing that up. If you're just a user joining a call on the public Zoom cloud, you're fine. Your device is fine. This vulnerability targets the infrastructure. Specifically, it targets something called Zoom Node Multimedia Routers, or MMRs.
MMRs. I've seen this acronym, but let's define it. What is an MMR actually doing during a call?
Think of the MMR as the traffic controller for all the meeting's audio and video.
Got it.
When you speak, that data stream has to go somewhere to be processed and sent to everyone else. In a normal call, Zoom's public servers do that. But a lot of large enterprises, banks, governments, they have very strict requirements. They don't want their data on the public internet.
Right, for compliance or maybe just latency, keep it local.
So they use these special deployments like Zoom Node Meetings Hybrid, which lets the organization host the MMRs, the routers, on their own private infrastructure, inside their own data centers.
So the organization is hosting the box that routes all the traffic, and this vulnerability says, I can hack that box.
Correct. If an attacker joins a meeting hosted on one of these vulnerable self-hosted MMRs, they can use that flaw we talked about to take over the router. And since these routers are inside the corporate network,
They are now inside the castle walls.
they've bypassed the firewall because the call was allowed through, and now they own the server processing the call. You go from guest in a meeting to admin on a server.
That explains the 9.9 score. It's not just about disrupting the call, it's about compromising the entire network. So for the IT directors listening, what are the numbers? How do they know if their MMR is vulnerable?
You need to audit your MMR module versions immediately. The magic number to look for is 5.2.177sec.0.
Okay, 5.2.177.5.0.
If your MMR module is running any version prior to that, so 5.2.1715 or lower, you are vulnerable. And this isn't a patch it next weekend thing. This is a stop what you were doing and patch it now situation.
Now, there is a silver lining here in the report, which I found really interesting.
Yeah.
Usually we hear about these things because a company got breached, but the source here is different.
Yes, and this is a real sign of maturity for Zoom as a company. This bug wasn't found by the bad guys. It was discovered by their internal offensive security team.
I love that job title. What do you do? Oh, I attack my own employer.
It's the best way to defend. You pay smart people to think like criminals. You hire your own hackers to break your stuff before the real ones do. And because they found it internally, Zoom released the patch with the disclosure.
So there's no evidence of it being used in the wild.
None. The report is very clear on that.
That's huge. It's the difference between a preventative recall and a recall because wheels are literally falling off cars on the highway.
Absolutely.
Oh.
But, and I can't stress this enough, that no exploitation status only holds for a very short window. Now that the update is out, the clock is ticking.
The race is on.
Exactly. Attackers can now look at the patch, see what was fixed, and reverse engineer the exploit.
So update your MMRs. Okay, let's pivot. We've secured the video calls. Let's talk about the code itself. GitLab.
The backbone of modern DevOps.
Yeah. GitLab released a huge batch of updates for both the Community Edition and the Enterprise Edition. And looking at the list, one of them really stood out because it attacks the one thing we all trust: two-factor authentication.
CVE-2026-0723. This is a 7.4 on the CVSS scale, so high severity. And you're right, it hits us where it hurts. We tell everyone, enable 2FA. It's the mantra.
It's the first thing you tell your parents to do, right? Because even if they steal your password, they don't have your phone. But this vulnerability says, maybe that doesn't matter.
It complicates that promise, let's say. This is a 2FA bypass vulnerability. The technical mechanism involves submitting what they call forged device responses.
Forged device responses. So does that mean the attacker is pretending to be my phone?
In a way, yes. When a server asks for your second factor, it sends a challenge. Your device sends back a signed response saying, yes, I am the authorized device and I approve this.
The secret handshake.
Right. This vulnerability lets an attacker fake that handshake. They can send a signal to the GitLab server that looks like a valid approval even though they don't have your device.
That is terrifying. But there has to be a catch, right? There's always a precondition.
There is, and it's a significant one. To pull this off, the attacker needs to know the victim's credential ID.
Okay, what's a credential ID? Is that just my username?
No, it's a different thing. It's an internal identifier for that specific 2FA registration. It's not something you'd advertise. But it's not impossible to get either. If an attacker has some other way in or finds another bug, they can potentially leak that ID.
So it turns the two-factor wall into a one-factor plus a secret number wall.
Exactly. It degrades the security posture significantly. And if you're storing source code or trade secrets in GitLab, you can't afford for 2FA to be an illusion.
And what versions are we talking about here?
This one seems to be in the 18.x branch. So we're looking at 18.6 before 18.6.4, 18.7 before 18.7.2, and 18.8 before 18.8.2.
So if you're keeping pretty up to date, you might actually be in the danger zone. But speaking of versions, the other big GitLab headline is about the legacy problem. We have some denial of service bugs that go way back.
Oh, yeah. This is the open door problem. We have two of them. CVE-2025-13927 and 13928, both rated 7.5.
And the key phrase that jumped out at me is unauthenticated.
That's the scary part. For the 2FA bypass, you at least need the password and the credential ID. For these DoS attacks, you need nothing.
Wait, so a stranger with an internet connection can just knock the server offline?
Effectively, yes. The first one involves sending crafted requests with malformed authentication data.
Malformed data. I always picture that as someone jamming the wrong shape block into the square hole until the whole toy just breaks.
That's a great analogy, actually. The software tries to read this junk authentication data, and the data is structured in such a specific, broken way that the process just hangs. It crashes or consumes all resources trying to figure it out.
And if the GitLab server crashes, your CI/CD pipelines stop. Deployments halt.
It's a productivity kill switch. And the other one, 13928, attacks the releases API. Same result. System chokes, system goes down.
And you said this affects old versions. How old?
This is where that technical debt comes in. CVE 2025-13927 affects versions all the way back to 11.9.
11.9. That's ancient in software years. That's like the internet dinosaur era.
Years old. But that's the reality of enterprise IT. You set up a GitLab instance for a project, it works, and you forget about it. It sits in a virtual closet, humming along, never getting updated, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Until someone realizes they can crash it from the outside.
Exactly. This is a wake-up call to scan your network for those forgotten zombie servers. They're sitting ducks.
Now, I want to briefly touch on the medium severity bugs. They're just so weirdly specific. The first one is the wiki bug.
Ah, yes. CVE 2025-13335. This is a kind of logic bomb.
The notes say it involves malformed wiki documents, bypassing cycle detection.
Right. So in computer science, dealing with links is tricky. Imagine a wiki page. Page A links to page B. But then page B links back to page A. A circular dependency. If software tries to map that without safeguards, it will follow that loop infinitely, eating up CPU cycles until the server just freezes.
So there's normally code to prevent that.
That's cycle detection. This vulnerability is a way to craft a document that tricks that detector. It sneaks the loop past the guard. So a user could upload a specific wiki page that just puts the server into a coma.
It's poetic, death by infinite bureaucracy.
It's a denial of service, but by logic, not brute force. It's elegant in a destructive way.
And the final one is an SSH bug.
CVE 2026-1102. Lowest score of the bunch, 5.3. It's caused by sending repeated malformed SSH authentication requests. It's less of a kill shot and more about just overwhelming the system with garbage.
Okay, so stepping back, we have Zoom routers that can be completely taken over. We have GitLab servers that can be crashed by strangers or have their 2FA bypassed.
It's a vivid reminder of that defense in-depth concept. You can't just rely on one thing. You need your application patched, your infrastructure secured, and your authentication to be rock solid. If any one of those pillars cracks, the whole roof comes down.
And the timeline is critical here. These patches dropped around January 21st. If you're listening and you haven't audited your environment since then,
you are living on borrowed time. Especially with that Zoom 9.9. I cannot overstate that. Once a proof of concept exploit is developed for that, and bots will just start scanning the internet for vulnerable MMR.
You don't want to be on that list.
You really, really don't.
But let's end on the positive note we hinted at. The system worked.
It did. Zoom's investment in that offensive security team paid off. They found their own 9.9 before the criminals did.
It's a strong argument for not just waiting for bug reports, but actively hunting for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Proactive security is always, always cheaper than reactive incident response. The cost of that internal team is a fraction of the cost of a global breach.
So here's the checklist for everyone listening. First, Zoom. If you manage an enterprise deployment, check those MMR versions. You want 5.2.1716.0 or higher.
If it's lower, update now. And for GitLab admins, check your version. If you are anywhere between 11.9 and the current 18.x branch, read the release notes. You have a patch waiting.
And that patch fixes both the stranger crashing your server bug and the 2FA bypass.
2 birds, 1 patch.
I like efficiency. I want to leave you with a thought today. We talked about Zoom's internal team finding that 9.9. It saved them.
It really did.
It makes me wonder, if you were to hire a team to attack your own stack today, your own servers, your own code, with the mindset of a ruthless adversary, what 9.9 would you find lurking there?
That is the question that keeps a lot of CISOs awake at night.
And maybe it should keep you up just long enough to run those updates. Thanks for diving in with us. Stay secure, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Stay safe out there.